Gary, welcome to Beaconsfield. It feels like a little while coming. How has it all been going?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I think when you lose the number of players that we've lost, it then becomes about recruitment. And I did see something recently where I can't remember who the manager was, but he was a young manager and he was getting advice from an older manager. The older manager said to him, "The next 2 months are 80% of your work." So the recruitment is massive, which is why it's become an industry on its own. And I think at previous clubs, I've had to do it all by myself, and it's become an increasingly difficult job. With every signing is 30, 40 phone calls, 3 training sessions, negotiations backwards and forwards. And whereas here we've got Tristan and Sam that can pick up some of the slack. And to be honest, Tristan's done more of those negotiations, which I'm more than happy to let him do, to be honest.
When you're talking about that recruitment, just tell people that maybe don't know that what was left over from last season and the unfortunate relegation, and how many players were left on the books, and then how many have had to come in to make a squad.
So on the books from the Beaconsfield group that finished the last game of the season was Tommy Dimmock, the goalkeeper. Mm-hmm. That's it. Now, we did make moves to sign several of the players, but they felt that they could, and most of them have, in fairness, got Step 3 clubs. A lot of them very high quality, and there were several that we wanted to keep, but unfortunately we couldn't do that deal. And it wasn't so much money as opposed to they wanted to play at a higher level.
And you're talking about the rebuild now, about bringing all those new players in. What kind of sort of time frame and sort of years for a rebuild would the club be looking at over that plan?
Well, it could change on a weekly basis. I've done a lot of different FA courses, and we once had a culture guy, specialist, come in and say that he's talking about culture and how you build it, and etc. etc. And I was in the room with quite a lot of high-profile managers, and he said that it takes 2 to 3 years to build a culture. 18 months minimum with no injuries and no change of personnel, etc. etc. There was a Garry Haylock, who's now, I don't know where he is now. He was Birmingham back in last year. Put his hand up and he said, "Can I just ask you, what do you want us to do?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "The average life of a championship manager is 13 months. And the guy went, oh, and didn't have an answer for it. So how long is a piece of string? You do what you can. The club have Tristan, chairman, Peter. They've all kind of said, look, this is a longer term project. This is not we've got to get promoted now. And I'll be honest, given the budget, if they had said that, and I was very specific on it, what are your expectations? I would have said, you're not getting promoted on the budget you've got. It's just not happening. It will take some time to build value into a budget. So you've got to get the right kind of players, mould them together, get the right environment for them, the right kind of shape, attitudes, application, and gradually build, and then you add to it and add to it and add to it. And if you get really, really lucky, you can do that in 6 to 12 months. So I would like to think we'll be competitive at the start of the season and gradually build and grow into it, and hopefully then we're looking at a top end of the table finish. And it can come down to fine margins. You get a centre forward that turns up and gets 25 goals, or you get a centre forward that only gets 15 goals, and those 10 goals are the difference. So it's how long is a piece of string, really?
Absolutely. This kind of next bit actually ties in together a little bit of some of the players you've brought in from an old team of yours that you were at last season.
So Windsor, yeah, and the link between the two, they were kind of Beaconsfield players as well.
Yes.
So yeah, we've moved some of those from being just Windsor players to probably being squad players at Beaconsfield, and they'll get an opportunity then to progress to being Beaconsfield players. But they were playing at Step 6 last year, and this is now Step 4, and although it's closer to Step 3, there's still a big jump in the levels.
With all that going on, and yourself as well, tell people a little bit more about where you've been and sort of the clubs that you've been at. If you've got 30 seconds.
I'm 53 years old now. I left school at 16 to be an apprentice footballer, and then I've never really done anything else. Whenever I've had periods out of the game as a manager, I've usually done scouting or whatever, and I've worked at League 1 level, and I've worked at Step 7 level, and everything in between, and a large number of clubs, and know an awful lot of people at different levels, and so I have relationships with a huge number of people, and will continue to do so.